Welcome to Gospel on Tap. Well, hello, friends. How are we all doing? Here we are once again. Gospel on Tap is in the house, and we have some of our co-hosts that we normally have on here. We have Aldo Leon, pastor of I don't even know what now because
Yo. I am officially the pastor of
come on.
Los Pinos. I'm sorry. Pinelands
Press.
Pinelands Presbyterian Church. We in Cutler Bay in the 305.
That's so crazy.
And all of us we good, man. We good with that.
Awesome. And we have Caro in the house. She's been with us before. She's everybody loves to hear Caro when we have her on. And today we are.
Wait, hold on. She's an official representative of Cristo y Cultura. Christ y Cultura.
That's right.
And she's an official member of Pinelands Presbyterian.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
We gotta drop those RCMs now. We gotta get used to
Been waiting for that for such a long time. So yeah. Making it known.
Well, if you are with us today, we are interviewing, and this is our first interview, man. So I want to welcome Yeriel Dominguez, Pastor Yeriel Dominguez. He's a pastor of House of Restoration Church in Tampa, and he's here with us today. And Yeriel, today you're the first interview on Gospel on Tap.
Wow.
That's it, man.
I'm nervous now. Now I'm nervous. I was good until now. Ahora sí que estoy nervioso. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it, man. You guys are great. I'm a listener. I'm a fellow subscriber. I have listened to every episode, so I'm a fan. So here I am as a fanboy, gonna talk to my my lovely friends from afar. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Nice to be with y'all.
It ain't that far, man. Because Tampa's what is 5 horas or okay? 5 hours or what?
Three and a half.
Yeah, it depends how you drive.
3.5.
Yeah, that's 3.5. Nah.
Depends how you drive.
3.5.
4.5, bro. Let's call 4.5.
So fun fact, I think you are also the first interview that we had in for Christ y Cultura, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? That was the first one?
Yeah. I have to verify with Jonathan, but
Nice.
I think you were.
That was fun. We had a good time.
Yeah.
And what was that interview about?
Oh boy, marijuana.
That's right.
Marijuana.
Yeah.
All right. Just to get us rolling, just give us like a bio of where you're from, culturally, where you live geographically, where you're functioning vocationally, and just some things about like your fam and your context. So yeah, just bring us into like your world, not like a pastor would, because a pastor always it's a 15-minute.
I've got 3 points for you in a conclusion. Okay.
do the Baptist homily. You know what I'm saying?
Nah. What's up, everybody? My name is Yeriel Dominguez. Like they said, I'm lead pastor of the House of Restoration in Tampa, Florida. We planted this church in 2017. But we could talk more about the plant later. But I'm a West Tampa native. I was born in West Tampa. I've been here, all my life. But obviously, I'm Puerto Rican family. Born and raised in Puerto Rico. I spent a lot of time on the island back and forth. So culturally, I didn't speak English until I was in 5th grade. So I was in ESOL. Yeah, man. I was in ESOL from kindergarten to 5th grade. And it was funny because it wasn't because I didn't have the capacity to learn. It's because I didn't want to learn, bro. I didn't want to be an American. That's why I told my parents, like, Mami, yo no quiero ser gringo. So I was like, yo no voy a aprender inglés. Yo no quiero aprender. And she was like, Yeriel, tiene que aprender. So it was, I think listening to Michael Jackson, a lot of Michael Jackson during that time. I'm not kidding either, where I just started picking up more words. And then I got out of ESOL and I was speaking again. So English.
Wow.
So yeah, so culturally, I was always just like, I'm not American. Obviously, now I'm 33 years old. I don't think that way anymore. But that's kind of how I grew up, man. I was a Esau kid, but born and raised in the U.S. My parents, they've been entrepreneurs all their life. So my dad always had different businesses. He had a home restoration business. He had a restaurant. I mean, and now we have a refrigeration business. So what we do is we do commercial refrigeration, commercial air conditioning, and so that's my day job. And then pastoring is my 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. job. That's you got your 9 to 5, then you got your 5 to 9, and so that's what pastoring would be for me, man. So I'm just praying that the Lord would, I guess, open those doors, so that eventually I can leave that and just focus on ministry full time, because it's definitely hard. Yeah. Married.
Yeah, but
yeah. Go ahead.
But you know what, bro?
Yeah.
Let me say this, and I speak for me and Prado.
Yeah.
And pursue that vocational full-time reality, but enjoy the fact that people can only torture you for part of the day.
You know what it is, man? I deal with customer service.
I'm half serious.
Yeah.
And
it's a half joke.
I'm half joking. I'm with you, man. I understand.
Yeah.
Hey, so what are you doing? What are you doing in Tampa? What you about in Tampa?
Well, like, I also tell people that I am married, because I didn't talk about my wife yet. I've been married for 11 years, and before my wife listens, says like, "Yeah, you didn't mention me at all." Wow. I mean, we're like, "Oh, honey, I love you." We're married for 11 years. We got married when we were 21 years old, so we were young. We got 3 kids. We just had a baby 6 months ago, baby Jude. So dealing with that now. And what am I doing in Tampa, man? Man, I felt a burden, a real deep burden to plant a gospel-centered church in this area. And why I say gospel-centered church is because I've been to enough churches to see that there's still anemic in that area. There's not a lot of gospel centrality going on. And the church that we were at before we planted, it was very Pentecostal, and it was very what's the other word? Charismatic. I think charismatic is a better word, because Pentecostal kind of keeps them in one box, but I think charismatic is just broadens the Pentecostal box even more. It's so all over the place. And I saw a lot of things that were concerning to me, and then that's when I kind of found my way into Baptist theology, Calvinistic theology, and my eyes were kind of open at that moment, and yeah, the rest is history, man. The rest is history.
When we'll get into like those transitions, but I guess if we help. So right now you are pastoring in the Tampa area, in the Tampa area, a church plant that is how many years old?
3 years old. So we are right next to Busch Gardens. If you're in Tampa, Florida, I mean, we're on 26th Street. Busch Gardens is on 30th Street. So we're literally 2 blocks from Busch Gardens. And my wife and I live 2 blocks from the church. So my wife and I live literally, maybe 2-3 minutes walking distance from the church. So we wanted to make sure we live or we pastored in a community where we lived. And so obviously my wife and I bought this house way before we even thought about church planning. So it was really God's providence that he just put everything in order so that we were able to get this property literally right next to our home, in a place that we know well, that we know our neighbors, we know the community. So it worked out well, man. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. All right.
3 years, man. 3 years.
So and how many covenantal centers you got?
We got 25.
No. Wait. Hold up. I mean, covenantal centers with your DNA.
Oh, with my DNA? in the body right now, in the church? 4. 3.
Oh,
Wait.
3 or 4.
Wait, 3 or 4?
3 or 4 people who would think covenantally?
No. How many people got your last name?
Yes, kids. Right?
Oh, bro, I thought you were talking about the church, bro. My man, man,
Covenant
I'm all
listeners.
three. That's three kids, bro. Three. That's it.
And how old are they?
So my daughter she's the oldest, man. She's a trip. I love my daughter. She's 8 years old. My son is 6, Israel, and then the baby's 6 months. Yeah, Jude. So we got Jasleen, Israel, and Jude. So we got 8, 6, and 6 months, man. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I don't sleep, but it's fun. Yeah.
Is it fun? Is it fun?
I don't sleep, but it's fun. Last night I slept 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, just 2. That's it. And they were the best 2 hours ever, man. They felt like a long time. I woke up like, yeah, wow, estoy listo, you know, like it's gonna be a great day today. Woo!
So you had you had 2 hours and you was sized and you was amped up. That's great, man.
Yeah,
If I have 2 hours, you don't want to talk to me right now at 5 o'clock.
I'm tired. Don't get me wrong. I'm tired.
Yeah, but you're tired and you're positive.
Yeah. Gotta think positively, you know.
All right. So one of the reasons why we wanted to interview you was because of your story in moving from different realms, rooms, and particular like tribes of the body of Christ. You started in the Pentecostal. Look, Pentecost. Let's be fair to like what I'm about to say. The Pentecostal world is nuanced. It's broad.
Right.
And so you cannot describe a Pentecostal with the explicit precision that would summarize everyone. But you started in the Pentecostal world that was deeply a lot of troubling things. So, you know, I guess just talk about it. Talk to us, talk to our listeners about what it was like for you to be in the Pentecostal world in its troubling elements.
Yeah, the Pentecostal world was I learned a lot, you know, and I want to be very careful because I don't want to badmouth anyone or badmouth really, you know, I would say my earliest theological foundation. It's where I learned to know who Christ was and love Jesus, and where I learned about salvation. If anything, Pentecostalism taught me how to fear the Lord, really, you know, as a young kid. So, but I'll tell you about growing up in that. You know, my parents, we attended a Pentecostal church from the time I was, you know, a small child till about 16, 17 years old. At that age, you know, my parents, they realized that there was something missing and there was something lacking. And primarily what was missing, what was lacking was the word of God, was a proper exposition of the word of God. And so I just remember seeing my parents go through a lot of stuff growing up and having a very weak theology that they were trying to grasp and get nutrients from, if that makes any sense. So, you know, they were going through some really tough situations. And, you know, I remember going to church and you know, hearing the messages, and my parents, you know, having convos with the pastor, trying to get some depth to why this is going on, and everything was so blanket and everything was so, you know, cookie cutter. So, you know, they wanted to leave and they found another church, and we ended up going to a Baptist Calvinistic church, which was a whole new world, you know, a whole new world. And I wasn't in it. I was really detached. So a lot of the things that were taught and said and done, they weren't really, they weren't, I was a teenager, so I wasn't really paying much attention. So I was kind of lost throughout those years. It wasn't until I was about, I don't know, maybe 20 years old or so, that I really, that I had a moment in my life where I realized that that I knew a lot of God, but I did not really know him. And so I really questioned whether or not I was even saved. I remember going to a Billy Graham crusade when I was 11 years old, and Billy Graham preached the gospel, and I gave my heart for what I thought, to the Lord, and I was on fire, and so yada yada yada, and and this is one of the problems that I felt with the Baptist church, but we'll talk about that later. But during that transition, I just didn't know if I was even really saved or not, and so I had this moment where I was just in between, and I was just like, God, if this is for real, reveal yourself to me. I know that this is for real. I know who you are. I want to be saved. I want to live for you. And I just felt like nothing was changing. And all the messages that were preached were so works based. And so, man, if you show this fruit, if you show this, and this means that this is true. And I didn't experience that. So I had a real crisis in my life, and ended up leaving that church, and met my wife shortly after that. And we were in a charismatic church. And in this charismatic church, I felt that I had what I was missing. I had that fire, the spirit. It was the Baptist Calvinistic was kind of dead to me. It was, it wasn't what I was used to with the Pentecostals. I wanted that feeling. And so here, I felt that I had all the tools that I needed to be successful, to grow in the Lord. And in the beginning it was okay. Then I started finding little things out further on along the lines. And during my time at that church, I was made I was hired on as a youth pastor. So I did that for a couple of years.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
What were the things that you saw that made you move from attender to like some kind of like a leader? Like what was it? They saw like your the clothes you buy. They saw your your passion. I mean, how did you move from attender to like being like a leader in that Pentecostal world? Like what was it?
Well, it was something that I believe it was one of our worship, because I was on the worship team before that. I forgot to mention that, because I was singing, and so I was already on the worship team before that, and they had me lead a couple sets here and there. And I don't know, it was one day I was praying, and I always knew the Lord had called me to ministry, and I always told my wife that this is the route I wanted to go to. I was in Bible college at the time, and I was really on a search for right doctrine, I think is what it was. And I felt so stuck where I was at. So here at the church, I think that the pastor just saw it in me. I guess he saw some leadership abilities, and he took me under his wing. He did. He took me under his wing, and he trained me, and it was good. I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't. I learned a lot and about leading through him, and yeah. So I was a youth pastor for a while, and that went well. It was throughout this time that, as I was sermon prepping for the youth group, I was reading through, it was the book of John, the Gospel of John, actually. And a few things clicked to me that didn't click before. Specifically where Jesus speaks of how he holds us in his hand, and how no one can snatch us away from his hand. And this doctrine really stuck out to me, and it really did something to me at that moment. And so, I was on a journey then, and I was really changing my theology from this charismatic theology to more Calvinistic leaning. And the Lord was faithful. But it wasn't good. It wasn't good for the church. We had a lot.
But before you jump from that,
yeah.
Let me say two things. First is Jose Prado. He knows that world just as much as you do. And he went to church, he got saved. And all of a sudden, like, because he's like an enthusiastic,
right.
Passionate dude. He's in that world, and people are acknowledging him. I don't know. We've never like talked a whole lot about like Prado's past, but those are his roots, And I guess let's just say this, because like all of us here are, and all of us here, I mean, like that includes Prado, that includes Cado, Prado and Cado, it rhymes. And this Puerto Rican dude, we are all committed to covenantal theology and confessional parameters for that. But man, like a lot of us, like God initiated us into this thing in that Pentecostal world. So we can do one of two things. We can despise that, hate that, overlook that, or we can understand that, like, you know, like that was a necessary part of our narrative that served its purpose, and God led us elsewhere. But still, like, you know, like a lot of us Latinos, okay, where we heard the gospel was with some tongue speaking, you know, Armenian, you could lose your salvation. And that's, you know, that's where we heard the gospel. But
I was forced to speak tongues, man. They forced me one day. They said, "Open your mouth and just let it out." And I said,
that goes to show us that, yeah, that goes to show us like that the gospel of Jesus is much more efficacious than the parameters and tribes that we experience it. Now, obviously, like we always want to pursue, like we're going to talk about pursuing like more clarity. But here's before you move into like, I was in this world and I was transitioning to this,
right?
Like when you were in the you know, the Pentecostal world, and you were a part of a church that was affiliated with a guy like Cash Luna. Okay, so Cash Luna is the prosperity, health, wealth, and prosperity gospel.
Yeah,
you know, he's a global figure.
Very.
If you were to be able to say, these are the things that like were like aha moments. They were illuminating moments, and I'm sure you had tons of them. But if there was like two moments that you were just like, you know what, like I think where I'm at is missing something vital, what would you say they were in that world?
I'll never forget.
Because, and I said to say is like a lot of people in Miami-Dade,
right,
305, bro. What you've been through is all most people in here know, bro. Straight up.
Wow.
So
yeah.
So tell us about your aha moment. You know.
Well, I had a lot, man. I had a lot of aha moments. When I traveled to Guatemala, before traveling to Guatemala, there was already a lot of stuff that was brewing, and you know, they really
traveling to Guatemala for what?
Yeah, I'm for a Cash Luna conference. So at the time, the pastor, he was heavily, and he still is, mixed in with Cash Luna. And I didn't know much about Cash Luna. I knew his name, and whenever his name was attached to something, it wasn't good. So I didn't know what to think really. And I listened to a couple of his messages, and I knew they lacked something. I just couldn't put my finger on it because they weren't overtly prosperous and overtly heretical. You know what I mean? So it was really hard to gauge. And so, you know, he basically defended him to me, and you know, convinced me that it was a good thing. It's a leadership conference. You know, you're gonna do great. The conference is called Ensancha. Jose, you've heard of that, right? Ensancha.
Yeah.
Okay. Ensancha in English is expanse. You know,
Jose was one of the breakout speakers there, bro.
Jose, you look like the guy that I met in the lobby. He looks like this rich guy I met in the lobby, man. Look just like Jose, bro. Igualito.
Oh man.
Like in my cara, I don't know. Anyway, so
people always tell me, man, I could have been a televangelist, bro.
You could have. Look at that face. Look at those teeth. Perfect. It's perfect. Those hearing can't see the beauty. But listen, I agree to it. They buy the tickets to go to the event. You know, and then, you know, the hotel was a 5-star hotel. You know, we had to stay at the nicest place in Guatemala. It's just the first class flight. It was all new to us, man. And I really did not. We spent so much money that I just couldn't believe the amount of money. we had to save up and spend. But in my mind, I'm thinking this is what God wants. God is going to use this to help me and help you and help us, become equipped for the ministry. And hey, let's do it. It's a small price to pay, whatever, $3,000, no big deal, right? So, which is, you had to get passports and all that nonsense. We get there, man. And the first day at the church, the first thing that caught my eye, that I knew that this world that I was in was not a good world to be in, and this camp was not a good camp, was when I went to the church to drink water, to look for a water fountain to get water. I was told that there's no water fountains in the church. There's a cafe upstairs, and the water is 7 quetzales, which is $2.50 US dollars. Seven of their dollars, or their currency. So I told my wife, that's odd. The church doesn't have any water, meaning there's no fountains, nothing. So that struck me as a little odd. The next thing that struck me odd was, well, these are all things that I saw, just that they were already starting to brew. Were the massive ATM machines. There was about 15 that I counted all throughout the lobbies and cafes and bookstores, and no free water and all of this stuff. And so I saw the material manifestation, man, of this, like actual, like what it looks like to be so prosperous that you care about nothing else but your prosperity. And I saw it firsthand. I saw it with the no water. I saw it with the there was parking that if you wanted to get closer to the church, it costs a little bit. There was a cost associated with it. And I'm not making this up. This is serious. I mean, this is a massive place, And I see these things, and it quickly came to me, and I said, this is not something that I want to chase. This prospering of the physical, the here and now is not the kind of prospering I think I want, man, because I don't see anything good coming out of this. So that was one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And as I listen to you talk, here's a thought I have, is that when we see the source of where things come from, I think it tells us a lot about the various layers that it comes out of. So, like,
right,
it's one thing for you to know American culture,
mm-hmm.
Because it's exported to you through
right.
Europe,
right,
through Asia.
Right.
But once you come to like America and you see it for yourself, mm-hmm. there is like a clarity that I think is necessary. And so you're talking about, like, look, I've been receiving this religious culture, in the United States, thousands of miles. I'm not sure exactly how many,
6,000.
but 6,000. But I went to the source of the export. I saw things that helped me be clear, and so that I think that's. I just want to pause and say, like, to our audience, is follow the trail, open the doors, and walk things out to their source, mm-hmm. understand them, because there's layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of things that somewhat don't tell the story, and by God's providential common grace, and I would say special grace, because, like, you're one of His elect. He brought you through all those doors, and you saw that. So, anyways,
yeah.
Go ahead, man. Sorry, I just wanted to just interject and say that.
No, that's true. Those are things that definitely ran through my mind. I really thank the Lord, because I don't know how many people are fortunate enough to have their eyes opened the way that the Lord opened my eyes. And I can't sit here and tell you it was because I was just out there really looking hard. I'm searching, I'm digging deep, and I'm in a sense, I'm wanting to be in right standing with the Lord, but in another sense, I'm buying this theology, but something wasn't clicking, man. Something did not click. It just did not sit well in my spirit, man. And the first night they opened, he preached on 1 Corinthians, I'm trying to remember which passage it was, 13, I think it was, the love passage.
Yeah, that's a love passage.
And he preached a love passage, and he changed all of God's, the times said God is this, or I'm sorry, love is patient, love is kind, and he used the word God is patient, God is kind. So he kind of like flipped it, and everybody thought it was this amazing thing, and I wasn't impressed, not because it was whatever. I just wasn't impressed by just the rewording of scripture, and to try to playing these hoops and whatnot. I want to know what the text meant. I really was there to learn. So I was okay with that. But then the night progressed even more. And I met this guy named Brian Houston. You guys know who Brian Houston is? He's a pastor of Hillsong. Yeah.
He is El Papa, the Pope of the Hillsong Church movement.
He is the Hillsong Vatican, or not the Vatican, the Hillsong Pope.
Yeah.
He is in charge of all of the Hillsong churches. He's a global senior pastor. That's a cool title. That sounds like Jesus' title, isn't it? Jesus is the global senior pastor. Man, boy. Anyway, so I met him because we were sitting right next to him, and he looked familiar, and I'm like, this guy looks like someone famous. I looked at him. He's like, hey, Brian Houston, yeah, nice to meet you. And I he shakes my hand. I'm like, oh, Steph, right? So we were talking. I'm like starstruck, and he went up there and he gave the worst, and I mean the worst message on Joseph and the colorful and the dreams, and it's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life, and I was embarrassed for him. You guys know when you're embarrassed for someone.
Stop.
Yeah.
This is Gospel on Tap.
Yeah.
That means that we give reasons for our statements.
We're gonna give these reasons right now.
Háblame, explica. ¿Por qué? Why was he saying like these coats, like if you put them on, like you're gonna fly through?
No, he said that whenever God gives you a dream, believe that the devil is going to try to steal the dream. You're going to have people come. It was very eisegesis, man. It was just eisegesis on steroids. And one thing that he said that really blew my mind away. I was like, there's a meme where the guy's face is like this, and he's smiling. There's a whole bunch of. I was like, he says, people think this story is about Jesus. Pause. We can just pause right there. But the story is really about God's potential placed inside of you. And I said, ugh. And I walked out, and I told my wife, honey, we gotta go. I gotta go outside. And she's like, and she texted me, she's like, I can't believe you said that. And then, I walked out, and I said, man, the story of Joseph is such a beautiful story, because God really does preserve his seed, man. And how you can get anything out of this other than that is dangerous. And so the cookie cutter sermons continued throughout the weekend, and I really just wanted to go home. I was just missing my kid. It was me and my wife were married. We had our baby, and I'm away, and then I'm just hearing bad theology all night, and then the final one was when Bill Winston. Do you guys know who Bill Winston is? I call them out by name because they're false teachers. So Bill Winston is a very, very, very prominent mega church pastor, and I think it's in Chicago. He was very well known for opening his own bank for his church members. So like church members who had trouble getting mortgages, they can go to the church, their own banking lending system. And so it was kind of a fraud and a fluke. So it got shut down. And the first thing he said when he walked up on stage was, I'm here with my secretary, Debbie. My wife couldn't make it today, but Debbie decided to come with me, and we flew on my private plane to get here. And everybody was like, hey, man, hallelujah. He's like, and then he starts talking about his plane. He starts talking about, not judging a pastor for flying with a secretary. And then he gets into the message, which was a terrible message. And so throughout this whole weekend, the Lord was showing me one thing and one thing only. He was showing me, Yeriel, this is not Christianity. This is not where I want you. This is why I am opening your eyes to get out of here running. And all throughout the whole weekend, to the dinner that I had with Cash, and the other dinner I had with Brian Houston, just Lord showed me one thing, man. He showed me one thing, and it was that that these men, can I say it? Or am I allowed to say it?
Yes.
These men aren't Christians, man. They're not Christians, bro. They're not Christians. They're professors. They profess to be, but they're not Christians. I saw another side of these people behind closed doors that it really kind of messed me up for a little bit, and the blatant. I mean, and now I'll keep certain things on. I won't say certain things, not to say them, but the Lord showed me that this isn't Christianity. These men aren't Christians, and you need to get out of here. These are wolves in sheep clothing, and so that's where my journey really started from leaving that theology and really searching for the truth. And and it started from there, from just that trip on, basically.
Yeah.
That was icing on the cake.
Yeah, that's, and you know what, like your story is dramatic. It's tweetable, but a lot of people in a lot of ways are experiencing that narrative. You know, Prado has, even believe it or not, I don't know. I think people in Miami think I got converted and I was like a Westminster theologian or something. I don't know. No, it's not. Like I went through that world in some ways. So
well, I also attended charismatic seminary, but that was, I forgot to mention that too.
Interesting. Yeah.
Coming back from that. Oh, I guess go. But I'm just
trying
to follow.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because you had this like huge awakening moment this weekend, but you're still part of this church, right? Like you're a leader at this church.
Yeah. After that, yeah.
And so coming back, having this realization, how is that trend? Like what was that like?
Yeah, so we got back after a week. We got back after a week, and that was me and my pastor, we couldn't talk much because it was I had to drive to Miami, from Miami fly to Guatemala, so it was the same thing, fly back into Miami, from Miami go back to Tampa. So it wasn't a lot of dialogue that we could have with him. And when I got back that Saturday before Sunday, he texted me. He said, "Hey, be ready to testify of all you experienced this weekend."
He's probably like, man, you must have loved it, huh?
Oh, Father,
you had dinner with Pat. You had dinner with Brian Houston.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what part?
Were you getting paid as a youth pastor in that church? Okay, no, that's. I mean,
no.
Okay.
Oh, so you were volunteering full time for Jesus?
Yeah, man.
Your job
I was a committed father. Okay.
And you paid your way.
I've got some works points. Oh no, let me stop. Listen, it was a good, man. He asked me one of the nights, how I was enjoying everything. And I said, I have some concerns, but overall Guatemala is beautiful, because we did see some sightseeing and got our mind off of the bad theology for a little bit, because it was bad, man. Imagine going to some Islam some Muslim convention for a week. You don't vibe with nothing that's going on. You're confused. You're out of your element. You feel like you're out of your element. So when he texted me Sunday, man, I was just like, Saturday, I was just like, I told my wife, I was like, babe, I don't even know what to say. She's like, honey, just speak from the heart. I was like, I can't. If I speak from the heart, it's not gonna be. And she's like, well, I mean, you can't lie. And I was like, you're right, I can't lie. So what are you saying? And she's like, just tell them how you. I'm like, in front of the whole church, baby, I can't do that. She's like, well, I mean, she was really trying to help me, get this out. So anyway, the time came and I froze. I grabbed the mic and I said, and he was looking at me, and I'm like, and then his wife was like, and I'm like,
qué pena.
Primero que nada.
Oh snap.
Primero que nada. Beyonce had the best album. No, let me stop. But I grabbed the mic and I said something like, the Lord moved greatly that week, and I thank the Lord for the time. Guatemala is a beautiful country. It's a beautiful country. I just kept talking about Guatemala, and then I took the mic away. Okay, hallelujah. Cut it. And then after that, he was like, hey, what happened, man? I was like, I was like, man, we got to talk, man. We got to talk. And he's like, okay, well, let's talk. Let's set up a meeting. So we set up a meeting. And that was the first time I confronted anybody of any authoritative figure in my life, on their theology. And I said, I'm not going to tell you his name, but I said, Pastor, I don't think you're preaching the whole counsel of God. I think you're leading some people astray with some things you're saying. He said, well, what do you think I'm saying? I was like, well, last Sunday you said that Jesus died. Jesus became poor to make us rich. And you use that verse out of context because you used it during offering time. And I think that was unwise because that's not why Jesus became poor. Okay. And that's not what that verse means. And I think you need to repent of that. And he said, who do you think you are? Yeriel? Nobody. Yeah. I don't want nobody. I was like, I'm just saying, it doesn't sit well with me. And I don't know. We have to be able to work through this because this is not right. And so that started a long, 4-month journey of the battle of the theologians, like here's this, 20-something-year-old trying to tell me, 50-something-year-old how to read the Bible, how to interpret scripture. I've been doing this for, who are you? Who are you again? Exactly. So it really didn't go well at all. And at the end of it, I said, I'm in a dilemma here, Pastor, because andarando juntos, si no están de acuerdo, I don't agree with you, I don't agree with you. And you don't seem to want to, I try to bring other people in and we try to mediate it, but the church was going down a slippery slope of heretical doctrine. It was going bad. It went from preaching, getting there to, slowly slipping to then becoming very, 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 very eisegetical to then going all the way down, plummeting down to the level of heresy. And that's where they ended. They ended it at some oneness Pentecostal statement one day that I think 10 people walked out. I saw him walk out. They said something, he said something along the lines of, there is no Father, Son, and Spirit. There is one God who manifests himself in 3 ways. And I said, oh,
Tiene tres máscaras. He's got 3.
And I said,
3.
No. And I said, you've been a oneness this whole time. No. I'm like, no. And I didn't know this. I'm like, God, we went from non-denominational to oneness. No. So, yeah, man, we had to call it quits, man. And we left. And so I went and started attending the previous church I was at for,
the Calvinist church.
What was that?
Yeah. So tell us what was it like to move from that world to Calvinistic Baptistic world, which is like, I believe that God is sovereign. I believe that the word is the thing that changes. Like, tell us a little bit about that. What was it like to make that transition from God can give you a Benz, he can give you a health encounter,
right,
to God as a sovereign savior.
The second time around was different. The second time around, revisiting the doctrines of grace came more like a refreshing splash of water that came over me. Because when we left our original Pentecostal church and then went to this, Baptist, Calvinistic church, Southern Baptist, SBC church, which I love to this day, and was my people. I was young. I didn't like the church. It was too much doctrine for me, too much theology. I wanted something different. I wanted something exciting like I was used to. And that's when we went to this place. Then I went back and I sat under the pastor for some time. And it was a time of deconstruction for me.
Is this the same church that your parents were at?
Yeah. I went back. Yeah, I went back because he was someone who was very persistent and helping me with my walk. Really was. He was very key in that. And so he aided me in this time of deconstruction, man, where I took this really, 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 really bad theology and he made a lot of clarifications on stuff for me. And Then I went under him in this program called the Ministry Apprenticeship Program, the MAP program under this church. And I was in that program for about 3 years. And at that time, he wanted to try out to see if we could launch a Spanish service. So they met with the elders and they wanted me to be the pastor for the Spanish service. So we tried to launch the Spanish service. It went well for a couple of months, and then the membership died. I mean, the numbers died down really like too much. So he said, let's just go back to one service. And so then that's kind of where it was at. And then he saw the calling. I knew the calling, and he knew it was time. And so I went through the Southern Baptist Convention and the Tampa Bay Baptist Association. And from there, we began the process to plant. But that was after a few years of just sitting under his teaching for a while and his leadership, kind of deconstructing, and the Lord using him really to work in my life, man. That was definitely a means of grace for me, for sure. I thank God for that big time. I don't know where I would be if that.
Earlier, you mentioned that you are looking to plant a gospel-centered church, right? So I'm trying to understand, like, right?
No, we planted already.
You planted already?
Girl, we've been.
Right. No, but like way before.
Oh, you're talking about way before that. Yeah.
Your experience in that moment.
Okay, yeah. So, sorry, Gato. I know. I thought you meant like if we planted. Yeah, my bad. I misunderstood. I'm sorry. I misunderstood the question. Yeah. So, I always knew that this was what God had called me to do, was to pastor and to plant. So that's why I was in seminary for a while, even though it was a charismatic seminary, and just prepping myself. When I went back to the church, the Baptist church, that's when it became very, very clear to me that this is what the Lord was prepping me for, to plant a gospel centered.
I think what Kato is getting at, because she digs, and she digs is at that point in time, doing that meant what to you? Like, what did it mean? At that point in time to do that. That meant like not gospel center means it's not signs and wonders. Gospel center means it's using like John Piper rhetoric. Like what did that mean for you?
No, during that time, my pastor, he's obviously he's Baptist, he's non-covenantal, but Calvinistic, obviously, and so what I envisioned and what I thought a gospel-centered church was a church that focused exclusively on everything that has to do with the gospel of Jesus Christ as a central point. I mean, covenantal, basically, that we take the grand narrative of the Bible and we go through that narrative. We're not experiencing signs, wonders, and tongues as markers, as arrows that point to our sanctification. If those things aren't happening, and this is what I felt, what I was taught, then that means that the Spirit isn't working in you. And so after that's deconstruction time, it became very clear to me what the gospel-centered church was. And it was a church that preached the gospel of Jesus Christ, that met at the Lord's table every Sunday, and that participated in these common means of grace every week. And our focus, I felt that the focus of the church shouldn't be programs driven like most of the churches I was, but really word driven. So my big thing, my big thing, if I got nothing else right during this church plant, was I wanted to be faithful to the text. That's it. I wanted to be faithful to the text, because I had seen so much unfaithfulness going on that it scared me to death to take a passage of scripture and mutilate it. I couldn't stand there and do it. And so I had a real big complex in the beginning, because even though I've been preaching with the youth for some time, even though I was under the ministry apprenticeship program for a time, and I've already gotten enough, the nerves of preaching, they kind of went away. I've done that already. Now there was this new fear that I'm going to be shepherding folks, and I've got to be sure that what I'm reading, that what I'm telling these people is really what the Word of God is saying, because look how it affected me when I was taught what I was taught. And so I really saw the gospel-centered church primarily over everything else, being fixated and focused on the Word of God as primary. I mean primary.
And
All
you got,
right.
and you got that, that example, or it was modeled to you through that SBC church you were part of.
Of course, yeah. Oh yeah. One thing I learned from him was the seriousness and what was really at stake on Sunday mornings. I didn't think there was much at stake on Sunday mornings until I really delved into this and I got into this church. I didn't think there was much at stake. I thought Sunday morning was more of a time to refuel, re-engage, and refocus. But once I understood what was really happening on a Sunday service and how God was really moving, and what was really going on with the assembling of the saints, then I saw how serious it was. And I saw preaching more as of a life and death type tool than just getting a rouse out of a crowd and getting a reaction from the folks, or getting some amens and getting some tweetable moments, or getting some, hey man, you did great. I mean, there was times people wouldn't say nothing after service, but as long as
I'm sure that really affected your heart and your wife's heart as well.
yeah,
Just because I remember, I saw a lot of the abuses that you're talking about, in the Pentecostal world. There are a lot of the teachings that I also was like, man, that's crazy talk. I can't, I can't believe that. But yet, man, I could speak in tongues. I could preach. I could,
really?
I could play the role. You know what I'm saying? I could get up there and move the masses and just talk prosperity and all that stuff. But when it really boiled down to is when I was struggling with my sin. When I was preaching on Friday nights and then, going to motels afterwards with some of the girls from the youth group. So when I had to deal with my wickedness and my own brokenness and my heart, and I really had no gospel to go to, because the prosperity gospel, what it offered me was not, forgiveness, forgiveness of sins, and really, the looking to the righteousness of Christ, as my righteousness.
And that's key. Yeah.
And so, dude, what it eventually happened, I mean, I had the same back and forth with my pastor on things that I disagreed. For instance, the loosing of salvation, the whole word faith movement, and name it and claim it. I had those conversations where I disagreed with him and stuff like that. But ultimately, what moved me out of that church was really, bro, like, I didn't know what to do with my sin. Like I was just like, dude, like, I'm struggling here. Like I myself, I feel, I feel like, man, I'm just, I don't want to be a hypocrite.
Right. Wow.
And the thing is that I had no gospel to really hold on to.
Right.
And so once, years later.
And real quick to say is, so Prado was saved. He had a gospel to go to heaven, but what he just said is he didn't have a gospel to cling to in the present. And I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Is I think every evangelical of any kind, I know I need some kind of like external gracious message to go to eternity, but what do I cling to in the day-to-day is something else.
Yes.
And what all of us in this chat are clear that what you cling to in the day-to-day is what you cling into in the eternity reality. It's not one or the other, But anyways.
And that's the sad part that I see even today. I mean, Miami's full of prosperity gospel churches. Spanish speaking, that's pretty much all there is. And I shouldn't say that, but that's the majority. And
it's common. Yeah, it's common.
Yeah. And English speaking, we have a more, I like to call it soft prosperity, kind of like soft porn, soft prosperity.
That's a wise way of saying it. It's soft.
It's not as blatant as Cash Luna, but it's the same thing. It offers you the same thing. It's all about you. It's all about you being
Mhm.
great,
What about you?
being
It's all.
satisfied,
It's
and you
very
being
you centered.
fulfilled,
Very you centered.
and it's all about you. And the thing is, like, man, like some guys can put up a show, man. I mean, dude, I like to watch them. Honestly, I'll sit and I'm entertained. You know, I feel like that movie Gladiator. You know, when he throws the helmet up on the crowd, are you guys entertained? You know, like I mean, you know, like yeah, like
How you feeling today?
I can go to some of these churches, bro, and I'm hyped.
I'm telling you, man.
But
That's
when
why I
I
couldn't
get
get
back,
into it at
but
first.
when I leave that place
Yeah.
and reality hits,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and
Reality.
and I'm struggling with my wife, and I'm struggling with my kids, and I'm, you know, and I have sin, you know, knocking on the door. Where do I go? What do I do? Well, it's oh, you know, you're the king's kid. Is that gonna really help me? You know, so yeah, so that's what prosperity gospel did for me, man. It just got to the place where I was like, man, this thing is crap, because you know,
Yeah.
like when it comes to my brokenness, it really does nothing for me.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. It does something for you.
Hey,
Like
hey,
that's about
hey,
it.
real quick. Um, we've heard Yeriel like walk through it, and Prado is like reverberating, but like Cado, like if you were to give us like a 1 to 2 minute synopsis or summary of like how you've experienced this, like what would you say as you hear everyone talking about this experience?
As I hear everybody talking about what how do
No,
I
no, Cado.
oh talk about God, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you talking
So I think what I would say is, I think we would all agree with this. Like God, I'm grateful for the fact that like He took us through those, like to those places and through that, because now, current time, like we have a greater appreciation for what the gospel is, for Christ.
right.
And looking back, like I was more so a part of like that soft prosperity reality. Um,
And
I was,
real quick, just to say to Yelia, Cado was a part of a Hillsong church. So
yeah.
when you talk about that guy Brian,
Oh, I
she
went
knows
to
it.
conferences where,
Yeah, she knows experientially, not
yeah.
just conceptually what you're talking about. Anyways, go ahead.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I was part of a Pentecostal church, Hispanic Pentecostal church, right when like that's where God kind of like introduced me, like where I was introduced to God and Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there for long, maybe like less than a year, maybe a year. Then I transitioned to this this church that is now a Hillsong church, and it's similar to what you were saying and to what Jose was saying. Like when life got difficult, when sin was real, them saying that the best is yet to come didn't cut it. Like, and that made me really question, like, if I'm gonna consider myself a Christian, like if I'm gonna say that I am part of this, like I agree with this reality, like there has to be something more, because otherwise, like, what is the point? And so I was at like, I got to a point where I was just like, it's either like I let go of this, or I find something that's like solid and helps me understand which Christianity truly is. And
Yeah.
so although it sucks, and it honestly like grieves my heart, the fact like to know that that's still like that's still going. And I could see how in my life God used that to get me to where I am now, where I get to look back to that and like see
Yeah.
how and appreciate what like sound doctrine and
Yeah. Yeah.
the gospel in essence.
That's really good, because just think about like I'm not trying to sound like a sermony, but God tells Abraham, like, I'm gonna put your descendants under Egyptian servitude for 400 years before I show up. And so obviously, like, that's a redemptive narrative, but still, like, God does put us in places of experiential, like, lack and necessity and hunger, and confusion, because he is he wants to invade that empty space with this, like, gospel abundance. And so, praise God for that. But here's so when I'm listening to Pastor Yeriel, what I hear is, he, God saved him in by the gospel, but the culture was a lot of works, identity, works functionality, works, just that whole paradigm of, like, Christianity is mostly about what you get or what you do.
Right.
And then it was very highly experiential. Like, I feel this, I sense this, I experience this.
Right.
And then the Baptist, Calvinistic world was, like, the world of Christianity is more based on what the scriptures say,
right,
and less about experience, and less about what you get or acquire, but just text, historic text. So experience, acquirement, achievement, textual conversations, textual understanding. What happened to you in that world that led you to where you currently are now? So here's something maybe helpful. I had two dudes talk to me about you. It was Jonathan Gonzalez, who I think he is one of the most brilliant theological dudes who no one knows or cares about, in some freaking desert in Nevada. Like, he's a great dude. I want him to come to Miami, but he may never make it here. And then you talk to Rudy, who is he is a baby baptizer of Los Angeles County in the hood. Like, that's who he is. Like, who in Los Angeles County is from the hood and puts water on
babies.
And they said, yo, connect with, like, this long nosed, white looking Cuban dude from Miami, to you. And the first time we spoke, he was like, I don't know what's wrong with the Bible focus, truth focus, word focus, Baptist world, but I just feel out of place. Something's missing. Do you remember that conversation? Can you enter into that experience and tell us, like, hey, like, okay, so you're in this world, you jump in this world, and you see some really helpful, deepening, advancing things, and then you just have, like, these moments where you keep entering into the perplexity. Do you remember that? Can you talk to us about that, or what?
Yeah, that was in the beginning. Our phone conversation was on New Year's Eve, man. It was New Year's Eve, or yeah, because I was working that day, and I remember it was New Year's Eve, and I had a phone call with Aldo, and yeah, I didn't even know where to start. Honestly, this is what I was going through, man. I entered to this world, the SBC, and I thank God for the SBC because it taught me what I know now, man. I got out of some bad stuff, and I went into a safe place, and the Lord used these people, this organization, his word, really. I mean, but just you use them to really explain it and help me through it. And so I've always been indebted to the SBC for that. And I thank God for that journey. I even thank God for my Pentecostal journey, man. Thank God for all of it. It was all needed. Looking back and from top down, it was all needed. Bro, what did it for me was this real, it was a level of legalism that was kind of like, it was so small and so hard to see that you really had to peel back certain layers in the doctrine to really get a grip of what I'm talking about, of this legalism. And so I just, in the world that I was in, and then just reading certain things, like I was reading the London Baptist Convention of Faith, which I love the Confession of Faith. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, really. I'm reading through these things and I'm listening to these sermons, and they all sound the same to me, man. And they all sound the same to me. And they all have this hint of works righteousness, works reward system. And I just, it wasn't sitting well with me. And I think it was listening to John Piper one day, really, that did it. I was listening to John Piper one day and I'm like, this doesn't sound right, man. This doesn't sound right. And so I started
So stop. What about what you heard did not sound right?
It didn't sound right. I'm gonna tell you what.
Pero ¿por qué? Porque estaba gritando demasiado. Because what? Like what was up, bro?
Because I could never match the affections for Jesus that John Piper says he has for Jesus. Couldn't do it. I don't have those affections. I don't feel like I had them. And so I was really in a place in my spiritual walk as a pastor.
Wait, hold on. What you say?
You don't treasure Jesus above all things?
I love Christ with all that I am.
Salvation is, according to John Piper.
Oh, okay, you agree. Okay. I was like, well, I don't know. I never got there, and it hurt, and it started to and I was like, God, what is it with me, man? Yo soy un tipo stoic que no tiene sentimiento. Did I do something in my past life that, triggered something in my younger years that messed a tool in my brain where I just don't have these sort of affections for you that I should be having? Lord, help me. And it wasn't until I started reading through the Westminster Confession of Faith, WCF, shorter, that I just kind of, I just saw something that I didn't see before, I saw something that I didn't see before. And I saw something in covenantal theology that really woke me up. And it wasn't so much based on what I'm doing or what I'm not doing, but in what Christ has done already in the here and now, and walking in the here and now of what he's already accomplished. And when I grabbed a hold of that, man, when I tell you this has changed my life, I don't live with this baggage any longer, this chip on my shoulder where I'm not doing enough for God. I'm just not doing enough. I'm not producing enough. I'm not giving enough fruit. Church isn't growing the way it needs to. This isn't happening. During the worship services, only this person raises their hand, that person doesn't. Our affections are all over the place, but we're not doing it right. But this, after really, 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 really basking in what Christ has already done for us and walking in that and experiencing that, it has really given me a sense of peace where I can lay my head down and really, really, really sleep peacefully at the sovereignty of God. I couldn't do that before.
Yeah.
That's what 2 hours are enough, right?
Oh, we're at 2 hours?
That's why 2 hours of sleep were enough last night.
Oh, bro. Yo, I'm on like trying to like be as awake and as
No, but like
I wish you could speak more into that, because they're like very, I feel like we're talking about like tiny nuances that could be could like go over people's heads, and that is drastically affecting the way that we rest at night. Like we're not resting in God's sovereignty, we're resting in our sovereignty. We're resting in our and so I don't know if maybe like doctrinally or
one thing was Christian freedom and whatever you want, Christian liberty, everybody has their different, their Baptists have their definition, right? And then I believe that we would hold to Christian freedom is not freedom to sin, it's like freedom from sin, and so I wasn't taught that, and I'm not blaming any denominations for this. This is just what I experienced. And so whenever I would, part of it was that I was I was in a situation where I had a real rough time just sleeping. You know, I couldn't sleep, and I was having insomnia, and half of it was stress. The other half of it was just my own body. I'm very active. I'm very up and up and up. And I was on this keto diet where I was just always, you know what I mean? So I just didn't sleep very well. And so I got on this medicine, some sleeping medication that was helping me sleep. And I was having a conversation with somebody, and they were concerned that I was taking this medication to sleep, and really questioned, you know, some stuff. And so we got into the conversation of legalism, and you know, and drinking, and just everything that has to do with Christian quote unquote freedom. Anything that you do for the glory of the Lord. That kind of conversation, and I just realized that, man, you know, every time I talk to somebody with this worldview, with this thought, it's like you walk on these eggshells because you really believe that God is going to just erase your name from the Lamb's Book of Life every time you do something that's against the Word of God, you know, or you do something that you feel internally is wrong. And I just really lived with this fear, man, this fear that God was going to smite me at any moment. And I still live with this fear of the Lord, of course, but now I embrace Jesus in a holistic level, man. He's Lord over all areas of my life, man. Not just one, but all areas of my life. He's invaded every aspect of what I do. And it was only after I let go of trying to please him in my own way that I felt that I was doing for many, many years. And I found that outlet really with Reformed theology. You know, the Lord really opened my eyes in Reformed theology too.
But okay, so let me just pause right there.
Yeah. When
you let go to trying to please him, you had an epiphany.
Yeah.
So if I'm on Facebook Live right now, if I'm on a podcast, I'm like, I'm a Christian, I want to please God. Yeriel is some kind of like he's some kind of opportunist using Christianity for that. Stop real quick and explain why you saying I'm not trying to please him leads to an actual desire to please him. Like it sounds contradictory, but it's not. And that's what I'm saying. Reformed theology is a worldview. It's a garden. It's a environment where God is the first, ongoing, and final reason for everything, and that drives everything. But when we hear what you just said, it's like, man, like, you know, yada yada yada. People are like, okay, well, I guess like just restate that in a way that like maybe it would help some folk just understand what you're saying. Like, could you say it like a different way what you just said?
Okay. So I went from living with a legalistic tendency in how I approached my relationship with the Lord, and how I approached God in general. I approached him believing that I had to offer something in order to get some sort of response from the Lord or some sort of favor from God. And then reading through Galatians 5, I think is what did it for me. I think it was reading God in general. I approached him. What was that? Hello? Y'all hear me?
No, I'm not. I'm not talking. Who's talking?
I don't know. I just heard some.
I heard it too. But who was that? Was that was that Jose's?
No, that was an echo. It was an echo.
We need the anointing oil. ¿Quién tiene el aceite?
It was an echo of Yeriel's voice.
Vamos a ungir el cuarto. No, I think it was reading Galatians that I started to have that moment. But there was although it's so many different mini moments of epiphanies. Okay.
Yeah.
That happened in the series of this year. That really screwed me up. You know, one of them was accepting and loving paedo baptism. That was a big one for me. I think that's kind of how everything opened up when I started viewing baptism not so much as something I'm doing to represent something that has been done, but something God has promised from way back when, as a sign, as a seal, and I loved it. I love the Lord, man. When I read that, but I'm not here to defend paedo baptism. That's not what I'm doing.
Hey,
But
wait.
there's a
Are those three DNA reflectors of you? Are they baptized?
They
Just
will
like
be.
children.
Huh?
They will be.
Huh?
They will be. They're not yet. They will be.
Are you gonna do it?
Wasn't Jude baptized though? I
No,
thought-
no, no. I got to talk to Aldo about Jude, but no, we haven't yet. But we're planning on it.
All right. So listen. This is you can baptize all three of them dudes. I'm sorry, no dudes. It's girls and guys. Or when you come down here September 3rd, I'll do them all. You know, I'll do them all with you at the same time. That's that's the thought.
You'll throw in Yeriel. You throw in Yeriel, baptize him too.
Baptize
No. Only once. But
You do
because
three for the price of one.
he's coming down
First, is
on
it
the
September
on
3rd?
the first week of September.
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the first week of September. All right, so just real quick, just capping up. You know, you God saved you by His grace. In the Pentecostal world, where Christianity was a lot about Christians and what they can acquire or what they can accomplish, and you moved into a SBC, you know, Calvinistic world, which was like, you know, like Christianity is about what God does by grace, but there's a lot of us that, you know, is the, you know, catching and pitching response of that. And then you move more into obviously we can explain extensively covenant theology and historic confessions. And you was like, you know what, I think I went from like God is responding to us to God is initiating and we're responding to, like, man, like this God is just, he just owns us. And we're just always catching up to what he's doing and in the covenantal confessional world. So if we want to, like, you know, end, so what's next? Like, what are you gonna do with this? You know, if you know, where does this go? Where does God working as he's worked and you know, in your past, like where do you see that leading you for your immediate or maybe not immediate foreseeable future?
Yeah. So first thing that we are getting ready to do is to leave the TBBA, the Tampa Bay Baptist Association, and look into getting into the PCA. That's one of the things that we're working on for the remainder of this year and next year. And my plan really for the next 5 years, man, what I would love to do, and this is what I've had planned for this year, is to start our Spanish service. It's a burden the Lord has put in my heart since the beginning, and it's been really difficult to do, especially with the whole coronavirus thing. But that's what we have planned, man. We have planned to launch this Spanish service sometime next year. We were hoping February, but you know, we'll see what happens. But that's what we want to do, definitely. And then once we have that service launched and sustainable, then you know, I would really like to see what the Lord does as far as my vocation is concerned, because my heart's desire is to have a full-time ministry. It is not easy, man. It's not easy at all. It's not. But you guys know. Who else is you're bivocational too, right, Pardo?
No. I've never been bivocational. But I think about it sometimes. I think if I had to start over, I probably would.
Christine talks to
Depends
me
on
about
what
it
it is,
sometimes.
honestly. It's not always bad. I mean, it's just if you have a strenuous job where you're in the sun a lot and you're doing like physical labor, like, and that's when it
I
becomes,
get you. And there's a lot of things that, man, that I know you wish you could do,
yeah,
and ways that you could shepherd the flock and stuff that you can't, and
yeah,
I feel for you, man.
yeah.
Feel for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
So,
How was
yeah.
it?
it is a blessing. It is a blessing to be fully vocational
Fu-
with the church, but
fully abused by. Okay, sorry.
at 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 the
Hey,
same
one of
time,
your
man,
church
I
members
mean,
is
there
here.
there are there are there are some advantages, and the fact that you're out there, you're meeting folks, you're
Yeah.
you know and then hopefully I pray your church would really look at your efforts, man, and what you do and how you sacrifice, how your family sacrifices, and really you know um, honor you for it. So
So how's your church responded to
The changes.
to your just how like what the
Your
Lord is like,
journey.
your journey.
Um,
How has that been?
they've responded well, for the most part. I've had people a little confused on certain things. Mostly it's been paedo baptism, but we've actually kind of jumped over some of those hurdles. Um, we started going through the WCF shorter before Corona hit, and then we paused that. So I tend to go through that again, but it's actually it hasn't been bad. It really hasn't. I haven't had a lot of um, you know talk back from them. What I've had is pastors that are concerned for me more than anything, especially pastors that knew me from then. They're just like, what's going on? Are you having a Britney moment? What is it? You know what I mean? Are you
Yeah,
going
bro.
like, and it's like,
Bro,
no,
bro. What I love, and I obviously like, we're we're continuing on the conversation. Hopefully, we end before 2 hours. But what I love about my conversations, first of all, with with Prado, second of all, not in priority, but just thinking like is Bicado, and with you is like we're like, yo, man, like this ain't about culture. This ain't about like pastoral, um, churchy, um, um, political correctness. Like, yo, like at the end of the day, how does the textual redemptive narrative um
right.
within our hands, like like inform and affect like the people that God has put in our care.
Yeah,
And bro, like one of the things that like all of us deal with, um whether it's Gato just processing like being a daughter or a sister or just a church member or a worker in the Miami school system, or as Prado as a pastor, or you Yeriel as a pastor, and me. It's like, man, like we need to um not be intimidated by the fact that a lot of Christianity in its gospel explicitness is just something that we have a knee-jerk tolerance to.
Mhm.
We have a knee-jerk tolerance to gospel explicitness because we still have the natural reflex of the first Adam wired in our psyche, whether you're saved or not, like that's our reflex. And so when we begin to talk about a view of reality, when we begin to talk about a view of spirituality and how we live, and the choices we make that are just mostly just in this Christ for us, towards us worldview. Like people are just they're just they they ask questions, they throw some blows, and they leave us, bro. But at the end of the day, man, like Christ will never leave us.
Mm-mm.
He was incarnate for us. He lived and died and was raised for us and ascended for us. So, you know, we try to live as him receptive as possible, and let everyone either fall in line. And so, like, one of the things I love about Gospel on Tap, and even Saints and Sinners, is that all of us have been stubborn to feel that passive I don't have receptivity is a essential Christian value that drives Christianity. And we have a podcast about this, and we have another podcast about this, and we say, you know what, like, we understand that it's just not going to be something that is understood naturally or easily, but it is necessary, you know. And so, you know, one of the reasons why, like, you know, I invited Kato again. Like, this is like the third time. You know, we called her to join us, and then what I want to interview is because, man, like, we need more gospel. We need more gospel conversations. We need more gospel females, males, pastors, non-pastors, and here we go. You know, let's continue the conversation.
Yeah.
So, any closing thoughts from anyone, or questions?
So I'm honestly excited for just where you're at. I'm excited as a church member, witnessing Aldo, like the Lord just like taking Aldo through a similar journey as you. I'm in the bleachers just looking and like watching God do God, like what God can only do. And I'm grateful, and so I'm excited for you, for your congregation, for the saints in that church. And yeah, so excited because there's no end to, like, our it's like a deep swim in this ocean that just like never ends, and it gets more exciting. And the fact that like what the Lord is doing in you overflows to the rest of those around you, it's awesome. And so I encourage you to just be like, continue to be like open with your journey with them. And yeah, like that's part of like this like God's sovereignty, that we get to be exposed, like we get to just be ourselves and like just share that with others, because like we know that like God is sovereign, and that just like I'm excited. I'm so excited for you. Glad that like we interviewed you. And
yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, so hey, give us a dime. Give us a dime right now, Mr. Dominguez.
Some dimes.
A dime. No, not dimes. Uno.
No, honestly, all I can say is that one thing I know about the Lord is that that His word does not come back in void. Okay, so pray for your children. If your children are wayward and they're not following the Lord, pray for those kids. The Lord always, he does what He's got to do. So the other thing I could say, man, is that God's been faithful, man, and I'm glad to be here. I love you guys, and thank you guys for having me on, for real. Appreciate it. It's good stuff.
Yeah, man. So okay, so our Delaware Miami Latino, he normally does the outro, outro. So let me improvise and say thank you for watching Gospel on Tap. If you're in the Tampa area and you're looking for a gospel emphatic but yet ecclesiological, when I say I mean church, connecting gospel community, holler at Yeriel. And we are in the 305. We are in the bottom of the map. We are overlooked. We are overseen. But you know what, man? But you know what? North Cuba, the bottom of the United States. I tell you something, man. in the midst of the darkness, there is a Christocentric clarity that exists and that we enjoy and that we want to perpetuate. That is not Presbyterian. It is beyond that. It is beyond reconcile. I'm not even reconcile no more. It's beyond Pinelands. It's beyond Christ's family. Like, so listen, we are in the 305. We are in the bottom of the map because we want to just celebrate, pursue, converse, engage, and perpetuate a Jesus is the point spirituality, Christianity, with different kinds of people. So join the conversation, listen to the conversation, perpetuate the conversation. And you know what? God is sovereign, and we got homies in Tampa that are in this conversation, and that's what I love about this, man. It's like God's thing. It's creedal, it's confessional, it's historical, it's covenantal, man. Like it's all over the globe, man. It's not some kind of like a spur of the moment thing. So like that's my outro. All right.
That's right.
So
Ours.
we yeah, that's another thing. Pray for us. We're processing some transitions about Gospel on Tap. We put the word out for some people to step in and fill the gap. We don't know if they're gonna respond or not. Right now we're recruiting. Me and Jose Prado, the only Presbyterian and Baptist that love each other.
That's not true, man.
in Miami.
Yikes.
Yeah, we're trying to fill the gap with our big homie, intellectual giant, about to pursue seminary in Westminster, Philly. Like we're trying to like see how we can transition that. So all right, grace and peace, and we out in Gospel on Tap right now.